Now it's recording to my cloud. Okay. All right. And again, whoever did hit record, I think Nakoa did, and I trust Nakoa. If anybody else hit record, just please be respectful. Either shut it off when we get to the private portion or don't use it after. So hi guys, to anybody seeing this after the fact, this is June's community support call for what the energies are about. And tonight I'm going to be going over the reptilian agenda, which is basically a conflict agenda that intentionally puts humanity at war with one another, what we can do about it, and what we can kind of expect in the months to come, because there's always varying timelines. And of course, our consciousness, that word is so hard to say, is what actually contributes to what's going to happen. So you guys have more power than you think, and that's what you need to be aware of. It's the very thoughts that we think every single day, the conversations we choose to partake in, whether it be on social media, in our personal lives, wherever, that contribute to the energies that create our reality. Because where attention flows, energy goes, right? So it's really important to remember that. And let me just start out by saying I'm Christina, the quantum healing coach. For anybody who doesn't know, welcome to my YouTube channel, the community support call, wherever it is that you are finding this. I am an oracle. I am a seer. I am able to see into multiple potential timelines, as well as see into and remember my own histories in this world and many others. I'm able to see back to about 2.5 billion years ago at this point, and I do that with a direct connection to source and the divine. I am also a channel when I'm in session with people or when I'm receiving this information. When I'm receiving information that I offer to you guys, not only do I see it, but I also ask for deeper insights on the why, the how, what can we do about it, what's to come, what's the big reason, because I'm also kind of a geek and kind of a nerd, and I was that person who was real sciencey. So when my abilities did come online, my biggest request to my soul team and my higher self was, if you want me to do this, you got to show me the how, the why, the when, the where. I need to know all of the W's, because otherwise I'm not going to go talking to people and look like an absolute fool. So I like to know what I'm talking about. I always research the science behind the spirituality. And I will just give you a little insight that a long time ago, I think it was around 500 BC, the reptilians, those who were, let's say specifically, it was Queen Elizabeth, separated spirituality and science intentionally, with actually a spiritual person and a science person behind closed doors, because she was instructed by her higher ups, the people who she was, I guess you could say, channeling at that time frame, that the world needed to be under one religion. And that's when a lot of what we see now was born. And that was when the persecutions began, the inquisitions for the witches, who were actually people like myself, like many of you, who are just able to see the deeper truths and who like to blend science and spirituality, which to some regard you could call a form of alchemy, because it really is all the same. We are really here as a soul in a body, having an experience for the purpose of alchemizing and expanding the truth of who we are in the soul, so that we can bring that information, we can bring that expansion and what it is to really experience life in a body back to creator source. And then therefore creator source builds even more worlds, because there are endless worlds, there are multiverses out there. And we are just now beginning to learn this stuff through the very many people who are able to channel and see this stuff, kind of like myself. And I just want to say, all of you guys are able to do that as well. The key is to really build a good trust with yourself, to do all of the work, to get past whatever it is you need to get past, so that you can trust yourself, so that you can access your abilities, so that you can see whatever it is you want to see. And maybe you're not interested in using your abilities and your gifts for stuff like what I do, but maybe you want to use your abilities and your gifts in a boardroom or in a teaching setting, so that you can help students for tomorrow know what to choose so that they can get on their best timeline. So there's very many ways to use your abilities. It's the natural human way. Yeah, I'm going to say a prayer. It's a natural human way to actually access your abilities, become an antenna for God, and allow yourself to be fully in receptive mode, so that you can live in this world as a receptor for God. And for anybody who's interested, I am offering a solar class, specialized self-care workshop this Wednesday. It's in 2 days, and I'm really excited about that. This is going to be like a one-stop shop for everything that you need to know how to regulate your body, not just in solar flares, but in all of it, because I'm going to go over the nervous system, the nutrition, the exercise. I'm going to give you tools and tips that you can do so that you can work through the emotions. And I'm going to teach you what is actually going on within your body, because you're actually going through a form of photosynthesis, just like what plants do. So we are literally transforming, and this is going to go on until the middle of, at least what I've been shown, up until February and March of next year, if not more. And what I've been shown so far is that the peak of the solar flare activity will be hitting in the fall, right around election times, for good reason. That meaning they plan that stuff around what they're able to see as well, because they too are psychic. So it's really important to know this stuff. So it's really inexpensive. It's $33. It's going to give you all the tips and tools that you need so that you can regulate your body, activate your abilities, get in touch with your higher self, and really use these solar flares to alchemize the pains of your past into the beauty of your tomorrow, rather than just sitting there and suffering. And if you're a healer, if you're a Reiki person, if you are a coach of any kind, this is going to benefit you, because you're going to have the tips and the tools right at your fingertips to help somebody down the line when you are helping other people. And if everybody could just mute again, that would be amazing. If you could just check your buttons and make sure that you are muted, that would be awesome. And then my services are also on my private website, which is thequantumhealingcoach.com. I have all sorts of services that can help you. So all of that out of the way. Now I want to talk about a prayer and a meditation that we're going to do. So the first thing I want to do is just invite in our angels and guides and ask them to be a part of this entire session, ask them to protect us. And then we're going to go into a prayer and a meditation visualization. So if you could just get comfortable wherever it is that you are. And if anybody is seeing this after the fact, then please know that just going along with this, you are still partaking in using these energies to contribute to world peace, world prosperity, which is the goal of this visualization meditation right now. And it's so important that we allow ourselves to really just put our energy out there and focus on peace. So please, I invite you to get comfortable, to just take a nice deep centering breath, to make sure that you won't be disturbed for like the next 5 minutes. And we're just going to get into a little prayer and a little meditation. So, all right, let's take a nice deep centering breath. Let's do some resonance breathing, which is simply 5 seconds in through the nose, 5 seconds out through the nose. And I'm just going to instruct you or coach you through inhale, exhale on the 5 count. So all you need to do is focus on breathing. This form of breathing is really, really helpful for when you're having stress, or when you're going into meditation, or when you can't sleep. So please remember this down the line for yourself. So take a nice inhale through your nose for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Good. And just allow yourself to go into normal breathing rhythms, whatever that's comfortable for you. If you like, you can place one hand on your heart, one hand on your stomach. Your stomach is a very powerful energy area. And if you place your hand just over the lower part of your stomach, which is your dantian, you will be able to access and harness more energy for yourself. And right now, I want to call upon all of our angels, all of our guides, our loved ones from the other sides. We ask you to be fully present. I ask for your protection in each and every one of the homes of the people that are here in this community right now. We ask for you to watch over us. We ask for your guidance for our mind, for our heart. Allow us to stay open to the truth and see through our hearts and not our minds. We ask for you to protect this line, and keep this as a sacred space, creating no interference by anyone. And we invite you to be a part of this prayer and meditation visualization to contribute to the peace and prosperity of our world. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And go ahead and visualize a gold spinning disc in your mind. This gold spinning disc is going to work to just clear through your body, allow any thoughts you might have of your day, any concerns you might be having about what's to come or what's been happening for you, to go into the gold spinning disc at this time. Take a nice big inhale and exhale as you let all of the thoughts go into the disc. And now see or feel that disc move down through your body, out of the bottom of your feet, where there is a sacred portal, a little white bubble that is going to receive it. And this portal is going to bring your thoughts and your concerns up to Father God, Creator, your angels, so that they can turn them into blessings, and trust that all is well for you, because it truly, truly is. And now let's visualize a gold cord running from the center of our heart down the midline of our body, out of the bottom of our feet, anchoring us right into Mother Gaia. So it's going right into the center of Mother Gaia, where there's a violet flame. Feel, see, or know that this violet flame is anchoring you into Mother Gaia, helping you feel safe and present in your body. Feel the violet flames come up through the gold cord, coming all the way up, greeting you into your body, filling your body with the love of Mother Gaia, and transforming any issues you might have in your body, healing them, alchemizing them, so that you may feel like your best self. And now visualize, feel, or know white light pouring down from the heavens. You might see a parting in the clouds, or you might just feel light coming in from the sun. Feel the warmth of it on your face. Allow it to fill your body, your mind, with the love of Creator. Feel the warmth through your body like warm honey, warming you up from the inside out. Allow yourself to feel safe, connected to both Mother Gaia and Father God, Creator. Knowing that you are held at all times, knowing that you are safe, sacred, and always protected and deeply, deeply loved. And now let's once again call upon our angels and guides, asking them to be fully present with us and even partaking in the visualization, the energy work that we are about to do for Mother Gaia and all of her children upon it. You can extend your hands in front of you if you like, or you can visualize what I'm about to say in your mind, whatever works for you. See, feel, or know that Mother Gaia, Earth, is spinning in your hands. You're holding a small version of Earth in your hands, like a little spinning disc. You can see the beautiful colors of her as she spins and spins. You can feel all of the energies throughout Earth, all of the people who are looking for love, who are really needing guidance and support and protection at this time. And now knowing that you are connected to the divine because that white light is streaming in through your crown chakra, send the energy of the divine into Mother Gaia. See white light coming out of your hands. Feel your hands warming up as this white light imbues and fills Mother Gaia from the inside out. See this energy reaching all corners of the world, the north, the south, the east, the west, everyone and everything. If you can, see the faces of your loved ones, people that you care about, whether they live close or far. Send them love, send them protection. See the animals of Mother Gaia, the trees, the waters, the skies, all being purified, protected, and healed. Continue to allow Mother Gaia to be in your hands, holding her as if you yourself are the creator of this world, because you are one of many. We all contribute to the energies of this planet. And allow yourself to imbue Earth and all of the beings on it with the love that you feel, the peace that you want to feel, and the prosperity that you want everyone to feel at this time. Continue to feel Mother Gaia in your hands as the white light completely encompasses Earth. See everything being healed from the inside out. Whatever area or culture or nature issue you are drawn to, send as much white light as you can into that area. Focus and concentrate. Tap into your love. Tap into your angels. Know that you are connected to Mother Gaia and Father God right now. And you are bridging the love of the divine into Mother Gaia. Allow your hands to feel warm, full of love, and continue to send love into Earth and all parts of her. Think, speak out loud, or know in your heart that it is done. Earth is full of peace now. You have been a contributor of this. And now hand Mother Gaia up to Father God, the Creator, and allow her to be received in the good graces of all that is divine, knowing that she and we are all protected. Take a nice deep centering breath. And when you are ready, go ahead and open your eyes. So that is a meditation that you can do anytime. You can always create your own. Something I like to teach people that I work with is to find your own way of doing things. And especially if you lead others, find your own way of leading them, find your own way of sharing these types of messages. But that's something you can do every day, once a week, whatever you feel called to do, or something like it that will really contribute to the energies of our world so that we can move into a more peaceful and loving place full of prosperity for everyone. And I do want to share with you that the highest timeline that I see, all of that is possible. It's just up to us to make sure that we focus our conscious mind in the right ways so that we can get there. And that's why I was asked to do this call tonight, specifically on all of this, which I will just be honest and let you know that some of it's a little bit uncomfortable for me to talk about, just because, in my own personal life, like many of us, I've been ridiculed for being able to see these types of things. But that's also part of the agenda that they did, where they created division amongst humanity and causing some of us who are able to see what others cannot, causing some of us to think that we're crazy when in fact we're not. So if you ever see things out of the norm, feel, or whatever, please know that you're not alone. If you ever want to have a session and talk about it, I would invite you for specifically that reason to look into my hour-long session, because we can help you get situated from there. And Amy asked a question. Yes, so the solar flare workshop, the self-care for solar flare, if you cannot attend it, you will get the recording after. And I know a lot of the people that I talk to on here are from all different time zones, which is awesome because I get to talk to people in so many different cultures. But it does create a little bit of an issue. So if for some reason you can't attend it personally or physically, you will get the recording after. And it's even going to be something that I'm going to offer permanently in my link tree, providing the recording goes well. So I don't know, I might have to re-record it. You never know how these things go. If I have to re-record it, I will, but it will be a permanent offering in my link tree. However, it will be priced a little bit more. So if you really want to take advantage of the $33, then I would definitely invite you to join. And like I said, it's really going to be helpful. I channeled so much information. It's really going to be helpful for any and all coaches, especially if you help other people, because people are going to be really lost this year with the solar flares that are to come. And all right, so let's get started. I did have to take some notes because while this I know, there was some information that came through that was in a very specific way of how they wanted it explained. So I want to make sure that I don't go too far off track, that I get it the way it was explained, because even I was like, oh wow, that's pretty amazing to see it that way. So super, super helpful. And just a reminder that I will answer the questions, as many questions as I was able to get to in the emails at the end here. And then for anybody who wants to ask questions live and in person, but does not want to be seen on camera, we will do that at the end. I will shut off the recording and you'll be able to come back on and ask questions or put them in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. So I want to start off by saying the capability of the human being. We are basically what you could call like super beings. You know, the movie Superman, Green Lantern, all of those movies that are make-believe in this world. That is actually what we are capable of, and then some, because we carry within us what's known as the God code, meaning we are pretty much the only beings in the multiverses that will have the ability to create from all of our genetics. And we also have a plethora. We have 22 genes, 23 genes from different sources of ETs, but then we also have a 24th gene that is going to be coming on. It's been lying dormant and it's going to be coming on. And that's what you could almost consider our angelic gene, although I don't really like that term, because I think the word angel has really been misrepresented in this world and it creates a lot of confusion. An angel is simply a being that is closest to God. They're able to actually access and create and do all sorts of things. But for the most part, angels were created to be guardians or protectors. But as we know, many of them fell, or not many, a lot of them fell. And here we are now. So I really don't like to use that word, because I think a lot of people have this misconception of what it actually means, when angels are no different than really any other ET, meaning extraterrestrial, off human being. I'm sorry, off Earth being, extraterrestrial, that's what that is, but they're closest to God. So, but that's basically what we're going to be doing at some point. We're going to be working as protectors of the galaxies, of the multiverses, and even creating worlds. And this isn't for a couple thousand years. Like I've been shown between 1 and 2000, closer to the 1500 to the 2000 mark, when this will be happening from now. So this isn't in our lifetime, but what's happening right now for humanity, this whole ascension process, is about getting prepared for that, because we do have to ascend our consciousness, meaning we have to get our consciousness lifted out of this fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode that we've been in for thousands of years, which was created by the reptilians and the Anunnaki purposely for the means of control over us, because they are able to see, and they also know what the prophecy of humanity is, that one day we will be a super race. We will literally be able to do so many things that these other ET beings cannot do. And they want control of these vessels. And they can only do that if they have control of our consciousness, because they do not have the same soul blueprint that would allow them to imbue into these physical vessels. So what they have to do then is manipulate us. That's why they create all sorts of issues, wars, this kind of thing, because they know that if they keep us at a warring place in our mind, meaning, arguing with loved ones and going to school and having to fend for ourselves and worried about bills, and then now fighting with another country and gender issues and this issue and that issue, when they're able to keep us in these constant states of fight or flight, then we are not able to access our higher consciousness. And that's what they want to keep you in. They want to keep you looping and looping and looping. So it's our job to literally break out of that mold. And when you hear breaking out of the matrix, that's basically what they're talking about, or what the term means, although it can go a little bit deeper because we are still in a cellular matrix. We can't change that. So we need to learn how to operate within a cellular matrix with a super consciousness. Let me just check my notes. So they do this by means of fear propaganda, with wars and Hollywood and all that kind of thing. And many of us are aware of that. But what does that really mean, right? Because we know that they keep us at odds with each other. But I think that the frustrating part is when you're in the middle of an argument, you can literally find facts to back you up one way or the other. Left has their ways of, and I'm speaking specifically about American politics now, but if you're a left supporter, then you can find facts to back you up there. If you're a right supporter, then you can find facts to back you up there. Well, they do this intentionally. They pump out false information on both ends. And I'm not, and in this regard, not just in American politics, I'm just using that as an example because it's easiest for me to reference, but they do this throughout the world. There's basically like a pyramid, on top of the pyramid, some people call it the Bilderberg group, whatever you want to call it, who they meet behind chambers and they're able to talk about all this stuff, but they also have been speaking telepathically with higher beings guiding them for thousands of years. So they basically have been answering to someone. They've been answering to higher beings. You could call them dark ones, whatever. Some people call them Moloch or whatever these names are. They have been answering to these beings, and these are the beings that are the reason why they did or have done and are still doing the human sacrificing, the adrenochrome. All of that is in fact true, and it's absolutely disgusting and heartbreaking. And I'm going to quickly just bypass that because we know it's true. Most of you probably know it's true by now. If you don't, then I would encourage you to talk to somebody who might know about it. I don't want to go too far down those rabbit holes because they're very, very dark. And for a lot of people, they take a long time to navigate through, to really understand. The best way I can put it to you is, to them, we are like farm animals. If you look at it from that perspective, then it really puts everything into a higher state of mind where you can realize that they don't care. It's not that they think that they're evil. They are evil. They don't think that they're evil, but to them, we're nothing but farm animals, and they use our energy. They literally siphon our energy through various means, and they also siphon it quite literally physically out of our body with the adrenochrome. After torturing people, they're able to do this, and then they would live off of it. And we have the Anunnaki and we have the reptilians, which are two separate races, kind of conjoined into one, because just like any other species, after a while, when you live together in the similar worlds, they're going to intermix, interbreed, whatever you want to call it. So let me just check my notes, because like, if anybody who joined late, I just want to remind you that I had so much information come through. I wanted to make sure that I got it correctly. So they wanted me to use, my guides wanted me to use a specific example to show how they manipulate our minds. And I'm going to use an example of a Sandy Hook. I don't know if anybody of you remember Sandy Hook, which was back in around 2012. It was a school in Connecticut where they had a shootout. A young boy walked in and killed a lot of people, and it was extremely, extremely tragic. And I was shown this example specifically because this is a great example of how they do these psyops and why truthers are manipulated, how truthers are manipulated, how psychics are manipulated, because we need to be able to see through all of the BS. It's so important. It was a horrific tragedy. I lived there. I was living in Connecticut. I think that's why my team asked me to use this, because I have the different points of references of it. It was a horrible tragedy. But what happens is they create these psyops. They create these situations to happen. They manipulated it to happen. And the way that they manipulate it, and when I'm talking they, I'm specifically referencing the reptilians, those who are at the top of the pyramid. They specifically manipulate these things to happen because they know it will bring fear and trauma and pain to the human collective. And that while we're sitting in front of our TV screens crying and being upset, we're not doing the inner work. We're not focusing on what we need to be doing so that we can shift our consciousness to get out of this situation that we've been placed in for so long. So they do these things on purpose. It's really important to know that. And while, yes, we want to send love and say prayers and do basically like what we did in the beginning of this call, do things like that. Do not let yourself get caught up in it, because when you get caught up in it, it lowers your frequency. And then you are vulnerable to reptilian psychic attachments, right? These negative being psychic or parasitic attachments, however, whatever words you want to use. And there's different types of psychic attachments other than reptilians. So it's important to know that. Sandy Hook, the reason why this is a great example is because I'm able to see how it happened. And the way it happened, we know what happened with the shooter, but the way it happened, the way that was manipulated, is whoever that young man was, he had a traumatic life. He likely was born into an ancestral line that had deep trauma as well. I don't know exactly. And that's what I'm going to get into, Lorraine. I don't know exactly what his history or his ancestor history was. I've not looked into that, but what I have seen is that he was highly manipulated and he had multiple psychic attachments to him. And this happens a lot when we see, especially the teenagers, when they're killing themselves and people are having suicidal ideations and deep, deep depression. If you're ever having thoughts of wanting to kill yourself or somebody you know is, they likely have an attachment to them. Not always, but even if they don't, they are vulnerable to one, which will make the situation worse. So this young man, he was obviously born into a home where he had some issues. That's really not the point. The point is that these issues have been intentionally put into our lineages starting thousands and thousands of years ago. And I can give you another story that I've seen in session after to give you a deeper example of that. But what happens is he obviously had some PTSD, some trauma, some personality disorder, whatever it was. He was on medication, I'm sure, all of that. He had an attachment to him. That's the psyop. And it's important to know that, because what happens is when these truthers come out and they're saying, oh, these people are alive, or these people are alive, these people are alive, and they're saying it was a psyop. The psyop is actually how it happened, because I lived in Connecticut and I can tell you that it did happen. The entire towns were destroyed over this, mentally, emotionally, and people were a mess. And the reason why it's important to see these truths for what they are is because it creates conflict within us. Imagine if that was your child or somebody that you love who was killed like that, or you were one of the teachers who lived through that situation. And then you see online that people are saying it's made up. And I know that even right now, people are talking about how the Holocaust was made up. That's another one of they're saying it was a psyop. I can tell you that the Holocaust was not in fact made up. The Holocaust was one of the ways that the Anunnaki reptilians really tried to purify this planet to their means, because the Jewish faith, the way that the Jewish people are taught, and specifically the people who died then, they were taught, or they knew, they carried the truest history teachings of God and what it was, and that's why they were targeted. So it's important to realize that as we go into these times, and I'm bringing up these examples specifically because as we go into these times, the election and what's to happen, we're going to have more truthers coming out, and they're going to be saying this was fake, this is a psyop, this is a psyop, this is a psyop. But what we need to realize is it's a psyop on both sides. It's a psychological operation to fuck with all of us on both sides, because it wants to hurt you. It wants people to not believe that it's true, because if it's not true, then that means that there really are a lot of really bad guys, right, who are doing all of this stuff. And we already know that. But if it is true, then the people who are hurting, they're not feeling seen or heard. And then it creates all of this conflict. And instead of focusing on your own healing, which is what you need to be focusing on, so that you can access your abilities and see this stuff for yourself. You're focusing on arguing with your neighbor, arguing with social media, going to sleep at night thinking, well, was it true? Was it not true? I don't know. Does it matter? Does it really matter in the long run if it was true or not? Or does it more matter that we're able to reach a place where we can realize that people were hurt on both sides all of the time? People are always hurt on this planet, and that somebody is behind all of it, pulling the strings, much like a puppet master would, so that they can manipulate our consciousness away from what we need to be focusing on, instead of allowing us to be in a place to access these solar flares, do the deep inner work, heal our own minds, our own hearts, our own relationships, and then ascend to higher states of thinking so that we can actually think through our hearts, see the world through our hearts and not through our head. And that's why it's important to realize that these psychological operations are in fact a mind fuck, and they're going to increase, especially, I mean, the Trump thing that happened just the other day, the election, and I'm not going to get into the details of all of that, but I'm bringing that up for a reason, because I mean, I was standing outside. I live at the houses where I live aren't very far apart. My neighbors have their windows open, and I was just standing out on my back deck, and I heard "off with his head." That's some deep hatred. That is some deep, deep hatred, and they want to access that within humans. And what's important to realize is that these reptilian beings, which I will get into who they are in a moment, these reptilian beings recognize that if they keep us in states of fear, anger, hatred, frustration, warring with one another, then we're not going to be looking at the real situation, which is them and what they are doing, and realizing that we need to focus on healing ourselves. Because the truth is, and this is what you guys all need to realize, each and every one of you are so much more powerful than them. When you can access your mind, when you can access your higher consciousness and truly allow yourself to heal and get past these warring agendas and allow yourself to just reach a place of inner peace and saying, yeah, I'm pretty freaking amazing. I will tell you, I don't anymore, but I used to deal with psychic attacks. A year ago this time, or a year ago May, I was laying on my floor back in Connecticut, not knowing if I would be able to walk again because I had C1, C2, and an occiput in my neck out. And it was one of the scariest things that I had ever gone through. And the fear lowered my frequency to such a state that I had a being come and try to attach to my body. This is what they do. When they see that we are in fear, when they see that we are in a place of anger or hatred or anything like that, which all of it comes from fear, because when you're angry, it's because you're afraid you can't control it. If you're hating something, it's because you're afraid there might be something within it that's kind of like you, or maybe you're afraid to become like that. So it all comes back to fear. And I bring up fear for a reason, because fear has to do with our bodies. I mean, fear quite literally has something to do with our bodies. And this is something I'm going to cover in more depth on Wednesday. But many of you might be aware that we have in our brain what's called the limbic system, right? It's connected to our brainstem. It's connected to our nervous system. That portion of your brain, the medulla oblongata area, that is your reptilian brain. Because guys, we also have reptilian genetics in us. We don't have as many gene codes as the ones who are, let's just say, operating the strings right now, but we have them. We're basically almost the same as them. The difference is we have a different set of genetic coding, and most of us by now, because of all of the intermingling between all of the different types of humans on this planet over the last thousands and thousands of years, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a reptilian and a human unless they still have the means to shapeshift. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between them and a regular human, but it would be in the bloodline. Meaning, think about the royals in England, right? There's a reason why they marry outside of the bloodline. It's because they want to perpetuate their race. They didn't used to marry outside of the bloodline. They used to want to keep it pure, but they realized that that was causing all sorts of diseases and issues and genetic problems. So then they wanted to perpetuate their race. So then they intermingle with people outside of their own bloodline, because they can, first of all, because we are basically all across species of one another, and we all have a portion of the reptilians within us. It's our limbic brain. And that's the very part of us that allows us to access deep states of fear, deep states of fright, fight, flee, freeze, and fawn, and all of that that affects the nervous system. And that's why right now, learning how to regulate your nervous system and learning how to shift your thinking patterns is key. Because if not, then you are operating from your reptilian brain center. And when you are operating from this portion of yourself, then you are vulnerable to the psychic attachments of the reptilian parasitic energies, entities, whatever you want to call them. Because we have both on this planet. We have the ones who are embodied, meaning we have the bloodlines of beings who came from the, let's just say, hierarchy of the reptilian races eons ago, who walk among us. And within those bloodlines, a lot of these people who are now, I'm not saying they're all bad or they're all good, but what I think is important to realize is a lot of these people were born into these bloodlines without any without the knowing of what else they could be. Now, did their soul choose that? That's where it gets a little bit complicated, because the soul might have chosen to be born into a reptilian family. And in fact, right now, we do have a lot of situations where souls chose to come into these reptilian families so that they can basically turn the family around, if you will. And we have that happen a lot. There's a lot of you who might be clearing ancestral trauma from exactly that type of thing. So we have the reptilians walking around in physical form who are capable of shifting out of that fight, flight, freeze, whatever that causes them to be controlling and all of that we see at the top of the pyramid. And then we also have those who are within those family bloodlines who choose to be bad. And those are the ones who we see really controlling. Those are the ones we question all the time, right? You probably all guys have all sorts of names going through your head, and you're probably right on most of them. And that's the truth. We have the reptilians who are coming from that perspective as well. We have the ones who are here in a reptilian form who are have a soul, and are going to basically flip their bloodlines for the good, because Creator doesn't want that. Creator is able to see that these beings are lost and they need to be basically saved. And so souls came in. There are many souls who came in with that mission. But then there are those who wish to still be in control. These are the reptilians who we, deal with the problems with, the chemtrails, the vaccinations, all of that kind of stuff that we know is technically bad for us. And they also know it. That's why they don't take it. If you ever notice, some of the biggest Hollywood names, or the most, let's just say the most powerful people, like who have a lot of money, who could really go and get lots of plastic surgery and stuff, they don't do it because they know what this stuff does to the body. But they influence us to do it by getting other stars who have attachments to them, and a specific family with the name K is coming to mind. They use stars like that. Those people are basically used. They're likely a reptilian bloodline, but they're used for the purpose of manipulating our consciousness to thinking that we need to look like that. But if you ever look at the people who are really controlling the strings, they don't have anything like that, because they know what it does to the human body. And that's basically kind of how it works. That's just one example. But they're behind the scenes pulling the strings. They're able to plan what's going to happen and all of that. However, they are able to control what's going to happen only because they keep us under control by keeping us in a constant state of fight, flight, arguing with one another, and all of that. So those are the physical reptilians. And then we have the energetic, the parasitic reptilian entities who you can't see them, but they are in this reality. We're surrounded by all sorts of things all sorts of beings that we can't see, good ones and bad ones. They basically kind of like walk among us in a sense. The reason why we can't see them is because our eyes are not able to see into those dimensions yet. That is part of the ascension process that is happening. The ascension process of the physical vessel is actually going to shift our bodies through the photosynthesis process so that we're able to see more fragments of light. That you have a little flat behind your eye, a little like lens almost, and it's able to, it clicks like a billion times a minute or something, and it's able to process certain amounts of light. Right now, we are only able to process and see certain amounts of light, and it's the light that makes shape of the matter. right? So you have the matter and then you have the light. What you're actually seeing is the light. You're not seeing the matter. So as you shift in consciousness, again, why it's so important to, rather than focus on what's noisy out there, focus on what's noisy in here and heal your own body, your own mind, and your own life. Because when you're able to access these higher states of consciousness by healing your body, by doing what's necessary, then you're going to be able to see these beings. You're going to be able to see them all around you. Right now, some of you guys might be able to feel them or sense them around you. And it can kind of feel like you have a devil on the shoulder and an angel on the shoulder. And I think that's the best reference I can use, because that literally does happen. You would be surprised to know that when you are not in a good state vibrationally or in a good frequency, many of your thoughts are not your own. Many of the things that you are thinking about, especially if they are negative or fear-based or anything like that, they are not your own. These beings are able to see and feel, depending on where they're from, they're able to see and feel the sound waves, the frequencies coming from your brain. And then they're able to match a frequency too. They're like, oh, Samantha over there is thinking about killing herself. Let me go in on her and really lean in on her and try to get her to kill herself. Because they know that by lowering just one human's frequency, it lowers the frequency of the entire planet. And that's where they want to keep us. They want to keep us in these shameful places where we don't want to be here, where we're miserable because we're going to work and it doesn't make any sense and it doesn't do any good to talk to this person or that person. And it's all just bad, right? So they want to keep us in these miserable mindsets so that we are able to be manipulated. Because think about it, like I'm sure many of you deal with somebody in your life who's just always miserable, always cranky. It might be a boss, a coworker, a loved one, whatever. And it seems like maybe one day they're having a good day and then they're decent, but then the next day they're having another bad day, and it's over and over. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and then eventually snowballs. And then you might even experience that yourself, right? When that happens, that's because you likely have some type of energetic attachment. And there's nothing to be afraid of. When I shared with you that time when I was laying on the floor and I had that being who was trying to manipulate me and get into my mind and whatever, I'll be honest, I got pissed. I'm like, listen, buddy, because they have to listen to you. It's universal law. They have to, they have to respect your sovereignty. So when you command it, when you demand it, and Claudia just asked, can our angels protect us from these thoughts? No, your angels cannot protect you from your thoughts because they are your own. Your angels can protect you from what's around you and you can call upon them, but our thoughts are our responsibility. So when I had that happen that day, what I did was I called in the light. I asked for protection, and I basically had an energetic stare down with this being. It was just this shadow being that was floating above me because I couldn't get up. I literally was just laying there on the floor, and I just kept telling it, you're not going to bother me, and I'm not afraid of you, and I'm sending you love, and I'm sending you compassion. And at some point I did eventually say, go into the light. I give you permission to go into the light. And it went away. Most of these beings who come around you are coming around you because they want to go into the light. A lot of you who are here tonight or who are seeing this after the fact, if you're attracted to my type of material, chances are you carry a higher frequency, and they're like a moth to the flame. They want to be in your energy field so that they can basically hitchhike to get home. I like to actually call these types of beings hitchhikers, because the truth is not all beings who are around us who might seem dark or nefarious are really wanting to be there. They might have died somewhere, or they might have had a traumatic experience, and they might not even really recognize where they are. And you have the ability to send them home, and you have the ability to protect yourself, and you have the ability to command and demand your sovereignty and call upon the Most High and say, not in my house, buddy. Nope, I am a sovereign being of the Most High, and I do not allow this type of behavior. You've got to go. And when you do this type of work for yourself, when you take back the responsibility, and that's what it is, when you take back the responsibility for your energy field, for your thoughts, then you will feel a shift in your life. Then you will actually feel the energies around you change. And it's really, really important to do that for yourself. It's really, really important to recognize that you can heal yourself. You can protect yourself, right? And we have a responsibility to do that. And when we can protect ourselves, when we don't get sucked into the dramas on social media, whether it's left or right, or the genome agendas. I mean, the gender agendas, all of this stuff. When we don't get sucked into the noise of all of it, when we're able to allow ourselves to say, I am a soul having a human experience. I am here, gifted this life by the Most High, in my body, in a body that was created just for me, that I chose, even though I can't remember it right now, for experiences of expansion. And so is he, and so is she, and so are they, and so are them. All of us are. All of us are. It doesn't matter what sex you are, what culture you are, none of it. The bottom line is you are a human with a soul. And it's the soul having an experience within a body. And what these reptilians and these Anunnaki beings want to do is they want to make you forget that. And up until now, they've done a pretty damn good job. And I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of it. And I feel like it's time for us to take back our power. They use our ancestral lines. I just want to give you one more example, and then I'll wrap it up for Q&A. They use our ancestral lines. They were able to see that these times are prophesized. They were able to see that the time that we are in right now is very, very important. We are really in a huge solar cycle that's going to allow us to have a huge consciousness leap if we take advantage of it. And if people weren't so caught up in matrix types activities and worries and fears and the war agendas, then they would be able to access higher states of consciousness. And then they would be able to, at a quicker level, reach that superhuman, like Superman, like Green Lantern, like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I know it's all silly to even reference those types of things, but I promise you, it's very similar to the truth, without the superhero costumes, although they look kind of fun on some of them. I don't know. So it's really important to realize that that's where we're going, no matter what happens. It's up to us that will determine how long it takes to get there. And it's up to them because they're doing their damnedest to keep us in control. And the way they've done this, some of you might have heard of the looking glass technologies, which are real to some extent, but I would warn you to also realize that even stuff like that is a psyop. Anything you hear about any of that nonsense is pretty much a psyop, especially if it has lots of controversy and it's on the internet. Think about it like this. If they can control the internet, then why are they allowing it out there? If you want the real juicy stuff, you have to go into the back sites like BitChute, Rumble, and talk to people in private communities, because that's where you're going to get your truest information. And for anybody who does want to know the deeper histories of the world and why we are here, I'll share with you an author who one of her missions is or has been, I'm not sure if she's still really doing this work anymore, has been to educate humanity on the truth of our history. Her name is Ashiana Dean, and she has a book called The Voyagers. Last I knew, it was selling on Amazon for like $900. But even then, I think that was taken off of Amazon. They don't want her information out. And I know some of her material enough to know that it matches everything that I have seen and remembered. But she gets into the deep, deep science of it. She gets into the true history of humanity. She has a website as well. I can, if anybody wants to email me or message me, I can share it with you. I can't remember it right now. She keeps everything pretty cryptic with her names, as far as I'm concerned, probably for good reason. But her type of information, which has been floating around out there for 20, 30 years, couple decades now, is the truer ascension material. A little bit off in the timelines, but I don't think that she was able to foresee that the timelines are constantly shifting based on our consciousness, which gets me back to the point I was going to make, which is I want to share with you a story of how they manipulate humanity and why, from what I have seen in session and both with my third eye when I look into things, some of the biggest ways that they keep us, thank you, I don't know, Secrets of Amente, Ashiana Dean. Yes, that's her. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. From what I have seen, some of the biggest ways that they keep us in control keep us controlled is through shame, unworthiness, fear, right? Which are pretty much all linked. And what is the easiest way to get a human into a state of shame? Sexual trauma. And pretty much probably each of you either knows someone, or maybe you have, or maybe in your lineage has dealt with some type of sexual trauma, be it small or be it big. And even now we're seeing what I would call sex agendas, right? With the gender wars is what I will call them, because I feel like it's really sad that we've finally gotten to a place where people who are gay were able to be accepted, and then now all of this other stuff is perpetuating to create more hatred, right? But that's all part of their agenda. They have done this on purpose. They've literally created all of this type of stuff on purpose and created mass confusion through how they affect our food and through controlling how souls get into bodies. And that's a whole nother conversation. But just know that that is all part of the shame, the unworthiness. And that's a deep gaping wound in humanity right now. And I'll also share with you that for the most part, a lot of beings off planet are either androgynous, or it doesn't really matter. Sex is sex. So, it is what it is. We have souls that are coming into human bodies who see things from a different perspective, and that's okay. But for the purpose of this conversation, I want to point out the shame that's taking place in our world right now. And then we also have being stepped up with different types of agendas, where we see like the transgenders who are having the concerts for children and stuff like that. I mean, that's just not cool. I know a lot of my friends are gay, and even they would say it's just not cool. But it's important to realize that this sex stuff, whatever you want to call it, started eons ago, because our sacral chakra, our sacral chakra is our womb center. It is through the very means of sex that humans are able to create life. It is through those deepest means of pleasure that we are able to create offspring. And they've actually found in science, true scientists have found that there's actually at the very zinc spark, meaning when the whole spark of life happens, that's when the soul enters the body. There's a specific energetic frequency and electrical frequency that's been measurable, that they were able to measure. And that's when a soul enters the body. So it is actually through procreation, creation, that we are the most in touch with Creator. And this gets into the whole twin flame, divine union. We could go down that rabbit hole for an hour, but I don't want to. I want to stay focused on why sex is used to control humanity. Or how. They saw what was to come. And so what they did was they started many, many thousands of years ago with sex trauma. And they realized if they traumatize people with sex, then it stays with us longer, because we're actually procreation beings. We're here to procreate. That's what we're here to do. Whether it be create through means of loving one another, and some type of amazing project is born through that love, or maybe it's through means of actually creating life, creating a baby. We are procreation beings. We are creator beings. We are going at some point again to be creator beings. I have seen where humans, once we get past that superhuman phase, we actually are able to create worlds. And they know this. So they work very hard to shut down this creation center within our bodies. And this is why a lot of you might find when you go see an energy healer that, oh, your sacral chakra and your throat chakra, always linked, and always having to do with shame and unworthiness. And it comes from, a lot of times, the sex trauma. They specifically use sex to cause us to feel unworthy about ourselves, because when we think that we have done something, so if a child is molested, for example, on some level, they think that they asked for it, even though they didn't. And then what happens is, as they grow older, because the body, and this gets deep into science, so I'm just going to touch on it lightly, the body has to protect itself. So say, for example, and I'm going to use a specific example of a person that I worked with a long time ago. They were molested at a very young age. And the body has to create the fluids. The body is a smart intelligence. The body will always protect itself. So the body has to activate and access its endocrine glands, its reproductive glands, so that it can create the fluids needed to lubricate itself for the sex, right? So This creates conflict within a child, because then what happens moving forward is that child has been basically activated at a sexual level at a younger age. So not only are they feeling like they're feeling victimized and traumatized, but then a few years down the line, they're feeling shame, unworthiness, and then that leads into promiscuous behaviors, more shame, more unworthiness, and it just perpetuates. And this is why we often see the deepest wounds in people are sexual trauma and or violence, usually combined. And it's important to recognize that this is where a lot of our trauma as humanity lies, and this is where they really target us on top of everything else. So when we see, for example, that young man at Sandy Hook, he probably came from some type of background where all of this. Yes. Well, yes, meaning that it's the reason why rape, Claudia asked, is this the reason why rape is used during war? Yes and no, meaning ultimately we were programmed to use rape against one another. So at this point now, what we see people who were victimized, who have become the perpetrators, and then we have more people who become victimized, who become perpetrators, and it creates a cycle. And these are the very cycles that we are working to get out of. And I will just share with you that I've seen this happen on 2 occasions now, where I brought somebody into a hypnosis state to go back and remember their trauma, to go back and see what happened. And they were able to face their perpetrator who sexually harmed them. And when they see the person, they actually are able to see an energetic reptilian parasite leave the body of the very person who did that, who harmed them. So what I'm saying is, while it's the human vessel who causes the harm, it's the traumatized consciousness that leaves the body, so that the reptilian or the higher dark consciousness can come and enter into the body, take control of that body, and then perpetuate the violent crime. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I've seen this now a couple of times. Now, I'm not saying that it's in all cases, because that would be too generalized. However, when we're talking about humanity's evolution, and when we're talking about how these beings were able to see thousands and thousands of years into the future, and they knew about the star seed. I mean, if we can see into the future, they can see into the future. They knew the star seeds were coming. They knew the light workers and the light warriors were coming. And it would have kind of been like, oh, I see that soul's going into that family line right there. Let's start 5 generations ago, and let's traumatize that bloodline 5 generations ago, so that they're vulnerable to psychic attachments, so that by the time that soul is born into that body, they are going to have one messed up childhood. And I have seen this time and time and time again. And I will be honest with you and share with you that I have also experienced it. So this is how it works. They use all sorts of conflict agendas to create shame, unworthiness, rage, fear, all of it. And that's why, and I'm hoping all of this was well portrayed, that's why the most important thing that you can do is to heal yourself, face your demons, get rid of anything, any thoughts within you that could allow you to have psychic attachments to you, because we're all vulnerable. Even I'm vulnerable. If I were to have a bad day tomorrow, if I were to really get into some type of bad place or anything, I could be vulnerable. The channels and the psychics out there that you see, the truthers, if they are not speaking about the deeper truths, if they are not speaking about love, if they are in any way causing fear, I don't care what it is. I don't care if they're talking about spaceships coming to pick you up. That's crazy, by the way, because that's not going to happen. My God. If they are in any way causing you fear, if they are in any way creating some type of division that's causing you to question another human, that's causing you to doubt another human, then they are also likely working through vulnerable attachments. Because the truth is, we're all psychic. Some people just realize it with their ego intact. And I mean the negative ego, not the true identity ego, because a lot of us have false identity egos that we have developed, masks that we have developed over the lifetime that we've experienced here for the purpose of protection. All of those masks have to come down. And when all of those masks come down and you are able to really get in touch with yourself, first of all, there's a lot of crying because the world is so beautiful. And when you're able to see everything for what it is, you are just at such a place of bliss and gratitude. And you're able to see why the bad guys do what they do. I don't say that I condone anything that they do, but I can see that the trauma that they experienced in their world that brought them here. Do I feel bad for them? No. But I do wish that they will find their way because it will help all of us in the long run. And I know that Creator wants them to find their way because ultimately that is their goal for their species as well. But for anybody who's talking any type of division, then they are, in fact, likely dealing with some type of attachment. And it's important to know that because we have to do the healing. We have to do the healing. We have to face whatever's coming up for us. We have to face our deepest truths. We have to face whatever's in our life that is holding us back from living our biggest truths. And that's why we're here. And when you're able to do that, then you're able to access higher consciousness states of yourself. And that's when things really begin to get magical. And I think that that was everything that came through. Let me just check my notes. Yeah, it's important to realize again, our thoughts attract what we experience. And yeah, oh, this is right. You are always requesting something on a subconscious level, whether you want to or not, right? So if you're worrying about somebody, then you're basically creating an energetic discord for that person, and so you're requesting that to happen. So that's why when we talk about belief systems, what we're thinking on a deep level, right? We can all think up here. We can all think, yeah, I want to have a great day today. It's going to be amazing. But if there's some type of looming thought back here that's causing you to question if that's going to happen, that's what you need to pay attention to because that's what you're going to experience. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Anunnakis, Greys, they're all similar beings, and it's truly up to us. That was the biggest message that came through. Claudia says, no matter what they've done in my bloodlines, I am love and light. Yes, Claudia. And I will share with you that I came into two bloodlines. One bloodline, which is an angelic bloodline, which is the fairy folk bloodline, which are the ancient beings of this world, pre-Lemuria. And one of my other bloodlines was a royal bloodline directly from England that I had to purify. And it was hell. And that's why I'm able to see a lot of this information for myself. And I know there's other people like me too. Like I think David Icke is pretty open about it. But a lot of us chose to, some of the toughest warriors, if you're really going through it, if you're really, really having lots of ancestral trauma, like for example, with your body, emotionally, whatever, what happened with my neck was ancestral trauma leaving my bones because our bones are actually finite crystals and they carry the deepest and the oldest frequencies and memories. So once I was able to clear those energies out of my bones were able to go back into place with ease. I never even saw a doctor for it. I was able to heal it with my mind and with energy healing. But it also happened because of an energy that was trapped in my body that I had to purify. So, those of us who are here for bigger reasons, possibly, meaning like we have to share the bigger messages, we might have been through stuff like this, and that's okay if that's you. It's nothing to be scared of. It's you're just here. You're here to purify a bloodline, and also we're all here to purify the reptilian brain because whether you're in one of the bloodlines or not, you have a limbic brain, you have a medulla oblongata, you have the ability to get trapped in fight or flight. And so anytime in your day, in your life, that you're either going from fight to flight, meaning you're afraid of something and you want to leave it, or you're not really sure what to do, or you're just staring at the situation, or you want to fight somebody, that is always when you want to stop and ask yourself, what's happening right now? What triggered me? What was my trigger? That's the biggest thing you always want to ask yourself. What was my trigger? What caused it? It could be as simple as somebody wasn't kind to you at the store and it triggered something in you that was as a child when people weren't nice to you. Maybe you saw something in a movie where somebody was being sexually traumatized and it triggered you, right? We all have triggers. The key is to be open and honest with ourselves and be strong enough to allow the light to shine on the trigger. That's what a true light warrior does, is you shine the light on the situation, no matter what. And you say, let me look at this. What's going on here? And you allow yourself to face the deeper truths, to step into the deeper truths, and to accept what it is you need to face, change, or deal with within yourself, without expecting anybody outside of you to have the responsibility to do so. So with that, I am going to open up some of the questions that came through. Let me just go into my little phone here. And if anybody has any questions now, please feel free to pop them in the chat while I'm retrieving the information that I need to get. No questions yet. Okay, here's one question. Hello, my question is in regards to these white hats. I don't really know what they're called, which have been helping clearing out people that were involved in very dark energies, such as child trafficking. This subject came to my attention and very little people talk about it. Why? It has been said that they couldn't do this cleanup earlier because of the powers that be, but that now it was possible. Can you elaborate on this? What does it mean for the collective? Does it mean that there are no more dark entities among us right now? I'm not sure if any of this is clear. It all felt very true for me. Thank you. So thank you for this question. This is a great question. Yeah, the white hats. So this is a loaded question. What I will start off by saying is that the whole Q movement, the white hat, it is all true. Just like everything and anything else, it was infiltrated, right? The Starseed movement has been infiltrated. The Bible, the Jesus Christ story has been infiltrated. A lot of what happens on this planet is that these dark ones, these ones who want to be in control, see something good about to happen, and then they infiltrate it, much like they do our lives. So just like anything else, the white hats were infiltrated, but I should also say that the dark hats were infiltrated too, because I mean, it is what it is. We're all going to be doing our part. So the good guys also are going to infiltrate into the bad guys. So we have that as well. So just always be mindful of that. You'd probably be surprised to know that some of the people that you might hate the most might just be guardian angels. Oh, my pleasure, Claudia. Thank you. So the white hats back in 2020, I know that a lot of this started back in 2020 as far as, I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but in 2020 is when a lot of it really became relevant for most of us who are probably here right now. The white hats in human form can only do so much, because now there's the Alliance and the white hats, right, which are the earthly forms. And then there's the beings who are above us. We have Pleiadians, we have Andromedans, we have Arcturians, we have all these other amazing beings, some of which we don't even know the names for. And while I have seen them, I can't pronounce them. But we have all sorts of beings in other realms, good guys all around us that we can't see, just like there are the bad guys. So there's always both. Always keep that in mind. The white hats were only the white hats who were here to remove the higher beings, let's say the ones that the reptilians worship, right? The ones that they were sending the energy to, the Loosh and all of that, they are gone as far as I know. What I have seen, and I have also heard other channels talk about this, and there's a great reference for this type of information, because I don't pay attention to this unless I have to tune into it, because I don't really like it. I focus more on shifting the consciousness. But a great reference for this type of information would be Elena Denon. She wrote a book called The Cedars. And I just want to preface that by also saying that the Cedars only goes back to a specific history. Ashiana Dean goes even farther back. But Elena Denon has a great understanding or connection with being able to see both the good and the bad in the Anunnaki, because there is both. And even, I will say, what's interesting to me is because I have actually had I guess you could say a meeting with Enki at one point for somebody that I worked with. And for anybody who doesn't know, Enki and Enlil were both the leaders of the two factions of the Anunnaki. Enki is the good guy, Enlil is definitely the bad guy. And I say Enki is the good guy because if you were to go back in history, like the way it's been shown to me, that he had to restore karmic balance. What he did to the human genome was not of, he did not have permission from Creator and from the beings who partook in creating most of the genes that we had that were 22 up until now. He actually gave us another, they put in the Anunnaki gene, and he had to create a karmic balance for himself. That created an imbalance, and so he had some karma he had to work through for that. Now he is back here, and then they went at war, and now he is back here with the intention of assisting to restore the blueprint of humanity to help us set free. But I know that there's, again, that's another psyop, because you have people, I know Elena Denon deals with a lot of attacks where they're saying that Enki is bad. The way it's been shown to me is that Enki at one point back in those time frames wasn't fully aware. No different than how humans we might be breeding dogs in the backyard thinking we're doing something good, but Creator is upstairs going, why would you do that? Why would you put those two breeds together? Right? It's kind of the same thing. He did it from a perspective of science and hoping to help a race, but in the long run, he created a problem, which he then had to clean up with. So I just want to preface, if you do read that book, that's what I have seen, but the Cedars is a great book. It's basically like an encyclopedia, both Ashiana Dean's teachings and Elena Denon's. If you put them together, they give you a great reference of what's happened in our world. And in Elena Denon's book, you're actually able to see the 22 races that make up, the 23 races now that made up the human vessels that we are in now. But I should say that again, the vessels that we are in now were manipulated because we had lines of humans that were here before that, which is what Ashiana Dean is referencing. So back to the question, white hats. White hats, there's the white hats who are on planet, the white hats who are off planet. The white hats who are off planet were able to remove the dark ones, nefarious ones, whatever you want to call them, and bring them to off-planet facilities to work out their karma, whatever it is they have to work out. We still have the humans on planet. We are now at a place where it is up to us. Basically, it's kind of like, think about if we're on a schoolyard and you have different levels of beings. You have the first graders, the second graders, the third graders, and the third graders would be the bullies who are picking on the second graders and the first graders. Well, we're the first graders. We're down here. The second graders and the third graders, they're all gone. But we still have to clean up our own mess, right? Because it's our victimhood. And I use that word both cautiously and intentionally, but it's our chosen victimhood to allow ourselves to constantly be in this belief that it's their fault, it's his fault, it's their fault. It's that belief that humans have that have allowed us to be here. Yes, we need to clean up our own tables. It's up to us. We have to clean up the rest of this mess. So the beings who were here to help us, they're watching over us, and they send in energies and frequencies. When we get the solar flares, and I don't talk about this too much on Instagram just because of, I guess, being cautious. I'm still working through that stuff myself. But when we get these frequencies that come in from the solar flares, we're also getting frequencies from our galactic friends and family. So they are assisting us in this. And many of you might have experienced psychic surgeries at night and just weird things happening in your body where you just all of a sudden healed from something, or you wake up and you just know something. Those are your galactic friends that are still helping you. So they're still here helping us, but they can no longer intervene because the rest of it is on us, because we have to shift our consciousness so that we can shift the energies, because we really do co-create this reality through our thought forms, especially when we are thinking the same thing, which is why they do what they do. Said that they couldn't clean up because of the powers that be. They did clean up as much as possible. But again, what's left here is for us. And you might be surprised to know that a lot of, and I am not in any way saying that what happens to people who are enslaved is their fault, or that they deserve it. But I do want to offer to you that there is a certain karmic balance that happens, meaning, and I've seen this time and time in session, where in one life, somebody might be the rapist, and then in the next life, they might be the victim. And this happens a lot. So that's also part of the balance of the cleanup, because the energies on this planet have to be balanced. And it's through the perpetrator becoming the victim, and then recognizing what they did as the perpetrator, that they need to restore the balance within themselves, meaning healing it. I had to go through this myself. I had to remember a past life where I wasn't such a good guy. I actually destroyed an entire civilization. And it was through that life, through connecting with that life, that I realized so many things about myself. Is that part of a soul contract? Yeah, you could put it that way. Yeah, because when we're in a soul form, you have to remember, we don't look at the stuff that we experience in a physical form as good or bad. It's just like, that looks fun. I think I want to try that. I want to know what that's like. Let me go experience that. And then we come in and experience it. So from that perspective, yeah. But then that would be the micro perspective, meaning one soul. But on the macro perspective, what I'm also referencing is that's how we restore the balance of this planet, because this planet and the beings on it have been in a state of victimhood for so long. Most of it was originally oppressed upon us through means of amnesia and the great deluge, the flooding, and all of that stuff that happened. But then, because of our own inability to speak up for ourselves, they realized they could control us even more. So then we didn't speak up for ourselves, they did a little bit more. We didn't speak up for ourselves, they did a little bit more. No different than when you're in an abusive relationship, and then at some point you're just so victimized in that situation that you can't escape it yourself, because you can't even see yourself anymore, and you're lost. That's kind of like what humanity is going through and going to go through right now, and that's what we're experiencing. And that's that rage that you see coming out in a lot of the areas of the world. The energies have to work their way out of the human vessel, and they have to actually be expressed. And so again, just getting back to, you'd be surprised at how some of the most horrible beings that you might, humans that you might see here, are actually angels in disguise who are choosing to take on that role because, well, a couple of reasons. They want to experience it, but then also they recognize the importance of it. I hope that answered. Does it? Well, there's always going to be dark entities among us to some degree. This reality is always going to be a dark and light reality, meaning until we get to where I was talking about when we're like superhumans, but that's the ways to go. But we have to have the dark and the light come together for the purpose of life, right? You can't have a vessel, you can't see the body if you don't have the light to see it, right? You wouldn't be able to see me on this screen if we didn't have the light participating and then the dark in the in-between parts. It's the very contrast of life that creates the expansion that is needed. So there will always be, but there's going to be lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser dark entities. And that's why it's so important to learn how to control your thoughts, to learn how to do the work for yourself, to protect yourself, and to allow yourself to be still and not afraid. Like I said, when that being came in, and I get them every once in a while, where they come around and I'm just like, go away. I'll share with you guys a little trick that I do, because you could say I'm a big flame. Like I used to be that kind of person where they would come around me all the time and I would just constantly feel, it was like 5 conversations in a band in my head. And I'm like, oh my God, go away. And so what I did was I said, all right, listen, I recognize that my energy is one that helps you get home, but I am only open for a ride home between 3 and 5 p.m. daily. Other than that, I am off limits. And when I did that, I literally heard like a thundering crash all around me and then deafening silence. And it was like 7 o'clock at night when I did it. I was like, whoa, I had never heard anything be so quiet in my life. So you have so much more control than you think that you do. And if anybody's going through issues like that, I would encourage you to reach out. I can help you with that. Another thing you can do if you're afraid of, or if you're just feeling uncertain or you feel uneasy sometimes, chop up some limes, place them on the side of your bed, put some salt in little dishes around your house. These are high frequency items that they don't like to go near. Of course, saging and all of that is great, but I've learned that limes, especially limes, are really, really helpful. It cleanses the frequencies around you. Are we going to shift into the 5th dimension? We pretty much are. This is another kind of a complicated question to answer, because there's been so many mistruths about what a 5th dimension is. Dimensional awareness is simply that. It's awareness. It's your conscious awareness. And the best way to explain it is, if you're in a 3D mindset, you're only going to see this or that. You're only able to see that there's good and there's bad. When you're able to jump to that fifth dimensional mindset, you're able to see that there's multiple perspectives to be held. So the fifth dimension that we are going to experience is a consciousness shift that will allow you to see things from many perspectives. The vision I'm being shown right now is, imagine if you were at the top of a teepee and you were able to see all of the perspectives within the teepee rather than sitting at the fire within the teepee and you're only able to see what's in front of you. So it's about allowing, the fifth dimension is about allowing yourself to see from that higher perspective. That happens through the inner work. That happens through allowing yourself to really dive deep and do all of the work. Take advantage of these solar flares. Remember when I talked about in the beginning, and this is stuff I'm going to go over more Wednesday, when I talked about in the beginning how we're going through this photosynthesis process that's actually activating specific DNA strands and shifting our bodies on cellular levels. What's happening is it's shifting that lens behind your eye so that you're able to see different fractals of light. That is how, I don't know if you guys experienced this argument with anybody or saw it happening all around the world when we had the Aurora Borealis. And of course, there was the argument where it was HARP. It was not even going to engage in that because yes, HARP did do what they were doing, but there's no way HARP could have done all of that. HARP just tries to study it and create a little, HARP was basically creating like a little, just a little problem for it. And that was it, but that wasn't HARP. But for the people who claim that they didn't see it, because a lot of people are like, what do you mean? I was outside, I didn't see it. I took pictures, I didn't see it. If they weren't able to physically see it with their eyes, it's because they're not at a place yet where their light's able to see different fractals. It's actually a physical process that happens from the inside out. We don't go anywhere. We don't leave. It's not like things around us are going to shift. Well, in a sense, they are, but it's because you're able to see more. It's kind of like when somebody's colorblind and they're able to see different colors, right? Who's to say that what they're seeing is wrong? They're just basically seeing from a different dimension, a different perspective, a different container, because dimension is basically a container. This is a container for our soul. So you're either seeing through the third dimension or you're seeing through the fourth or the fifth right now. A lot of you are probably going into the fifth and the sixth. And what I mean by that is the third is where you were like, I don't know what's happening in this world. What's happened? The fourth is when you started to wake up and you learned about the human trafficking and you allowed yourself to see the truth. You had the lens open up and you're able to recognize maybe people are arguing. Maybe you got into some arguments yourself. And then you move past that and you went up into the fifth dimension where you're like, okay, yep, this is BS. I know they're not telling the truth and I know they're not telling the truth. I don't know what the truth is, but I know none of it's here. And you're seeing it from the top of that TP perspective. That's the fifth dimension. And then once you're there, that's when you begin to go into the sixth dimensional awareness state, which is where you begin to create your own reality. And we're seeing a lot of that happen now. So dimension specifically means dimensional awareness based on what your container is able to see. And it's all based on, again, the work that you're doing for yourself. So did I miss any questions while I was going through that? I don't Oh, darn computers. If anybody ever wants to be a moderator for the next call, that would be amazing. So we know that they eventually, oh, that was about Sandy Hook, Guardian Angel. I always tear up, Tim. Oh my gosh. Huh, Timothy, I always tear up. Is there a way to know if you're a light worker? Absolutely. If you're here, you're likely a light worker. What a light worker does is light worker literally carries the light in the darkness. And I would venture to say that most of you have been through situations in your life where you have had to be the light in the room for family members, for loved ones. You've been able to see the deeper truths within arguments within your family where nobody else could. And you had to hold that truth within you, whether you spoke it or you didn't. You held it in your frequency fields. That is a light worker. And then a light warrior just takes it a step further. A light warrior is a person who's out there like, no more. I am sharing the information. I am sharing the information. And it's a very fine, small difference. And a light warrior can also share the information with just one or two people, whereas a light worker might just carry, no, I don't mean just because it's hard. A light worker might carry the light, whereas a light warrior is going to be out there spreading the light. That would be really the only very finite difference. And I would say both are to some degree interchangeable, because at some point we're all going to want to speak the truth to somebody and get ourselves into some sort of trouble. And the word star seed, I just want to touch on as well. To some degree, we're all star seeds. We were all seeded from the stars. Each and every one of you are a singular expression of the one true soul of all things, the one true creation of all. There is a spirit. You can visualize like a cloud, like a spirit, right? And then little parts of the souls come down into its own individual form. But you are always connected to the one true creator of all things. And the human vessel was created from so many different, at this point especially, from so many different ET races that to some degree we're all star seeds. We were all seeded from the stars. Again, these terms have been used and manipulated, infiltrated on so many levels for the purpose of creating more of a conflict consciousness within us. And that's why you see even arguments within the New Age community. No different than how Christianity, and I mean the true teachings of Christ, and if you want to know those, I would invite you to check out Ashiana Dean's work. No difference than how the true teachings of Christ were infiltrated by the dark and manipulated to send people into churches where they are literally sending their energy up to the tops of those churches. And on the tops of the churches, if you ever notice, there's a little metal things. Those little metal things are frequency conductors, and they're actually taking the energy and harnessing it, and we're sending it to satellites and whatever the heck they do with it. That's the loosh. That's part of the way that they take the loosh. So everything and anything at this point has been infiltrated, which is why it's so important to do the deep work. Oh, you're welcome, Claudia. Oh, thanks, Nicole. All right, I think I'm getting, is that all the questions? Can I just clarify others? The energies have been heavier the past few days. Yes, I actually was really nauseous just before I hopped on. That's why I was a little bit late. I had to work through, and it wasn't from being nervous because I love talking about this stuff. I was just nauseous. And the last few days has been very, and yes, Tartaria is another. I've not looked into that much. I definitely should, but Tartaria is a whole civilization in and of itself. You could consider that a different dimensional awareness. And they used free electricity, which is what we hopefully will go back towards. And I think there's one more question in here. Is it possible for us to recognize a reptilian in person? If you can read energy, I'll just share with you that I knew somebody years ago. At the time, I didn't know much about this stuff. I knew where I was from and I knew that kind of thing, but I hadn't learned about the reptilians yet. We always go through a phase where we eventually at some point learn because we need to. So I had not yet learned about a lot of this stuff on a deeper level. Our guides or our higher selves will allow us to see what it is we need to know when we're ready to know it. And he was a human, but again, he was from a reptilian bloodline where energetically he was easily taken over. And his behaviors, it was like watching a switch. I mean, this person was so angel devil, it was so obvious. So that would be the biggest way. But it's important to realize even our loved ones can have an attachment all of a sudden. You could be walking down the street with your husband and something pisses him off. And then all of a sudden he's got an attachment and he says something to you out of the blue that's completely mean. Now you can't say to him, you've got an attachment, because you're probably going to start an argument for yourself and he's going to look at you like you're nuts. But if you call upon the light, if you call upon the frequencies, and if you send love into his heart, then you'll be able to hopefully send that attachment away. And just remember that you're more powerful than they are. The rest of the month for June, yes. So if you guys were here for April and May, you remember April was basically like the rebirth month, right? May was we were the lotus blooming through the flowers. For the month of June, we are the flowers. And what I was shown is we're the flowers in the meadows and the wind is coming. And when I mean wind, I mean winds of change. The winds of change are specifically being blown in from the sun, from Creator. And these winds of change are going to offer you opportunities for yourself. You might have miraculous things pop up. You might have sudden shifts and changes in your life. You might just be blown out of the water with what shifts for you this month, or you might be feeling called to shift things for yourself. Maybe you're realizing there's some patterns you need to change. Maybe you're realizing there's some really deep stuff you need to face upon yourself. Whatever it is, that's what's going to be happening on a personal level. On a collective level, more of the same. Don't be surprised if we see things flip and flop this month. I think that they set the precedent the other day with the whole Trump thing, with whatever side a person is on, they're going to be pissed off, whichever. The point is to be neutral. So as we move through June and the rest of the year, we are going to go into these conflict energies because they are able to see that June is like the setting the stage for new beginnings. And you're able to either harness those new beginnings or get stuck in new beginnings that you don't want. And they want to, those who wish to be in control, want to keep you in a constant state of confusion so that you do go into focusing on things that you do want. Because again, whether you're thinking about it, whether you want it or you don't want it, the thought is there. And the thought, the very frequency is going out into the universe. And then that's what creates this reality, right? So it's so important as we go into June and the rest of the year, as we go closer to the election, because it's going to get loud. If you thought 2020 was loud, it's going to get way, way more loud. And before anybody even asks this, because I'm sure somebody is thinking it, who's going to win the election? First, I will tell you, it doesn't matter, because what's going to matter is how we all focus on what's to come after. But who's going to win it, for a specific answer, we decide on a collective consciousness level, whether we realize it or not. The voting system, we all know for some degree, that's all pretty much fraudulent. We know that at this point. But we decide, meaning whether if the people, whatever the people are focusing on the most with hatred or with what they're afraid of, that's likely what we're going to experience. So if you want to contribute again to a better reality, then focus on a peaceful one to happen for all of us. But I also want to share with you guys that, it's through the conflict resolution that changes and shifts happen. And we can only have conflict resolution when we have conflict. So we will likely see and experience more conflict than we would like. And those of us who are aware and able, it is up to us to keep sending that white light, keep calling upon God Creator, keep praying, keep sending the angels in, and allowing ourselves to use our energy and remove our energy from the conflict and focus on peace. When you see stuff pop up on your social media, don't partake in it, ignore it, unfollow those people, especially if they're talking about spaceships coming to save you. Please, that is one of my biggest pet peeves at this point, because I deal with people coming to me for sessions and they actually think this is going to happen, and it breaks my heart because it's up to us. New Earth is born through each and every one of you. Yes, be the change. New Earth is born through what it is that we are focusing on. It's that lens that we're shifting, that we actually shift internally by working with these solar flares, by doing the inner work, by taking advantage of what's happening on this planet this year that is a gift from Creator, so that you can accelerate your physical ascension process, so that you can reach higher states of consciousness and see the other dimensions. A lot of people might not be able to take advantage of that this year, and in fact, they might even be sick and that kind of thing. I saw somebody ask about the gateway planets. I didn't do too much of a deep dive on them. What I can tell you is that if you want to know, it is very powerful, and that's part of what we're feeling as well. Each of those planets each have their own energetic signature. Now, I don't know which ones are alignment. I specifically talk to energy, and only when I need to know something is when I'll actually look into the specifics of it. But with Jupiter, Neptune, I think there's Uranus, or Uranus, however you say it, and Pluto, I don't know. But if you want to know what was shown to me, because I did ask quickly, I was like, what is this about? What I was shown is that you want to look at what each planet represents. So you could simply look up on Google or your favorite astrologer and find out what each planet represents, and then look at the order that they are in. And then, so say, for example, if one is power and the other one is change, and then the other one is transformation or whatever, it's going to come into us in that order. right? So I hope that's making sense. It's like a stacked change of how it's going to affect us. It is definitely marking, again, new beginnings of whatever the planetary order is. And I apologize that I don't know those specific planets and what they mean. I just don't pay attention to that stuff because I just feel it for myself. But what I am feeling today is that we are being marked with some type of like anxiety. It's like there's this deep swell inside of us that we know something big is about to change, but we don't know what it is. But it is, whatever it is going to transform what's to come. And that's in alignment also with the June energies. And does anybody else have any questions that you want to ask before we, yeah. Oh, we'll see somebody marked about the Hercules. Somebody talked about the Disney, Lorraine, the Disney Hercules movies and how when the planets are aligned, there's some sort of bad gateway. So that would be the predictive programming. And that's kind of what I was talking about before, where they create these things to get you thinking about them so that you create them. When you hear the term predictive programming, that's what that means. Your consciousness, and I'm going to wrap up the recorded version of this for anybody who's seeing this on YouTube, and for anybody else who's seeing it after, and then we'll get into the private portion. Yes and no. I'll answer that in a second. Predictive programming is about giving you the information that they want to take place. So these planets that are aligned up, they are bringing in opportunity for change. Change can be good, change can be bad. It depends on what you focused on. Again, getting back to the vision that I shared with you that I was shown, the meadow of flowers and how the winds of change are coming in. You can blow this way or you can blow this way. It depends on how you want to use that wind. You have to adjust your sails to what it is you want to create in your life for the destination that you want to go to. And it's when you do that that you create the life that you want. So they are working to create the life that they want you to create because they don't have the God code gene. They are not able to be able to create the life, the world that they want to create where they can continue to control us. Only we can create it. It's kind of messed up if you think about it. It's like the abused person who continues to go home to the same house because they don't know what else to do with themselves and they haven't yet changed their belief system. That is what they are counting on. As far as the financial system, what I have been shown that's going to happen is not going to be a big like collapse. Like I know there's different variations of it, different variations of the rumors that are out there. The one that I always used to hear was there's this quantum system that's going to come online, and when it comes online, everything's going to transfer over, and wealth is going to go from the people who had it, the billionaires who would like the 1%ers, be transformed to the people who really deserve it and need it. That's not true. What is true is that as we create new earth through us, as each of us begin to allow ourselves to awake, to see the deeper truths, to do the work, to shift the dimensional awareness of what we're able to see, we create the new systems. We create new ways of being. If you really look around, you probably notice a lot of people are not working in the corporate environment anymore. They're leaving these jobs, they're leaving these places, and they're finding entrepreneurship ways to make money. That's the new system. And as those people, those free spirits, those light warriors, those will be the light warriors, the light workers, as those people begin to build new ways, new systems, that is going to become more powerful than the old system. So if these are the old systems and these are the new systems that are coming, it's going to be kind of like this, right? And it's going to take time. Now in America, what I've seen is that we are going to face some dire times, and a lot of us know that we're in them right now. America, it was always fated to fall. I remember as a child before I forgot my abilities, and I learned about the history of the world. And my mom used to say, well, we're in America. America's always safe. I remember as a 5-year-old little girl saying to my mom, no, Mom, you don't understand. One day America's going to fall, because that has to happen. America basically is kind of like, you could say, the Babylon for the world that needs to shift its consciousness. And I say this with deep love for my fellow Americans, But we are one of the biggest problems because we are so caught up in the systems around us, right? We are so caught up in the 9 to 5, into this and that. And we're also we're partially caught up into that because of the medical systems, because so many people are afraid to live without health insurance. So many people are afraid to not have that 401k. Most people in other countries don't have that. Now, I'm not saying any of it's good or any of it's bad because I don't really have a perspective of it. What I am saying is that it's not freedom. It's not true freedom, because to live until you're to work until you're 65, retire, and then end up in a retirement home by the time you're 70 because you're so sick because you worked yourself to death is not freedom. That's not what Creator intended for you or anyone else. And so the financial systems have to shift. So we are going to see a collapse of what we know in America. Now, I can't say that I can tell you what that looks like because there's always variations of timelines. And again, the timeline that will be chosen, meaning what we will all experience, will be based on what we are contributing to as a conscious collective to experience. And that's where this, what we experience and what we focus on matters. So again, more reason to do the meditations. I think that we can just clarify. I think that was all. I thought I saw one more question pop up. Maybe I was wrong. Does anybody have any more questions in the chat that they want to pop in before I close for the YouTube? And gosh, I promised I was going to keep this at 90 minutes. I already went to 2 hours. I guess I have the gift for gab, but there really is so much to talk about. And I just want to, again, invite you guys to the solar flare specialized class, which is this Wednesday. And then next Wednesday, I'm also hosting another workshop, which is going to teach you how to communicate with energy around you, how to protect yourself, how to communicate with the elements that are around you. You can actually talk to them, how to communicate with the energies in your bodies, how to use energy in your day to assist you in having better, healthier relationships, to assist you in traffic situations, to assist you financially, to assist you in all the ways. Energy is in everything. And when we can learn to communicate with it, we're able to live a more harmonious life. So if that interests you, that's next Wednesday, which I think is June 12th. Also a 90-minute class, and that one's $44, and that one's going to be a lot of fun as well. Energy is my specialty. Like, this kind of stuff I can talk about, but it's sometimes hard for me to explain because I'm still working through my own trepidation with sharing it. But when it comes to energy and that kind of stuff, that's my jam. That's where I really excel. And so if anybody really wants to learn about that kind of thing, then I would invite you to check that out next Wednesday. Thank you, Amy. And all right, I'm going to close this on the YouTube. So if anybody's seeing this on YouTube or after the fact, I'm going to end it here. And I'm going to see if anybody else here wants some private coaching. And so I would invite you to check it out next month for yourself and join us for some private coaching. And I wish you a beautiful month of June ahead. And remember to focus on healing yourself. Focus on what your thoughts are rather than what anybody else is. And when you find yourself in conflict with anyone, ask yourself why you are being triggered, why you are being sucked into that conflict, as opposed to allowing yourself to focus on being at peace in your heart. Because it's when we are all at peace within our hearts that we are able to accelerate our consciousness shift into higher dimensional states of awareness. And that's what this is really, truly all about. Nobody's going anywhere. New Earth is born through you, not around you. So you've got to do the work. See you next time.